There's some kind of joke in here of like, how many funnel builders does it take to do a live stream?
Apparently, at least more than one. Welcome everybody. We have some exciting things to talk about today, I think. If you could, one of you real quick, just maybe Andrea, because I think Dan might be juggling
I'm on my
something.
mobile. It's looking
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
check audio for me.
Yeah.
Um, awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
the audio was definitely coming through because I had it playing in the video and playing here at the same time. So that was feeding out to everybody for a minute there, but we should be good to go
All
now.
right. All right. All right. Welcome everybody to CF 2.0 Geek Out. This is going to be awesome today. I'm Susan. That's Andrea, and and Dan Havey's joining us over here. We're gonna. I think I'll just give a quick update on the 2.0 status, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Andrea and Dan for you guys for a little bit because hopefully you guys can't hear it, but I have a whining puppy in the background that I think needs to go outside. so, but yesterday in the CF Design School group, right? That's where that was at, right? It was like
Yes.
a coaching
Yes.
call is
Yeah.
really what it was. Catherine Jones made an update. She's been in this kind of limbo period, the same as a lot of us, of like, I have to kind of wait for 2.0 to come out before I can actually like do a next thing. Like for her, if you guys did not go listen to the podcast episode of CF 2.0 Geek Out, you can only listen to this interview on the podcast. So go, the link to it is in this group though. If you're watching and listening in the group. We interviewed Catherine Jones, and she was talking about how she, has these plans to update her CF Design School course into a 2.0 version of it using ClickFunnels 2.0. And so she's been having to wait on that. So she was like, what the heck? Like, why is this taking so long? And she reached out to Russell personally, and her update was basically they're wanting to get it right. They're not in any sort of rush or hurry to get it out to people. They want it to be right, which I totally agree with. I want it to be right as well. Timeline on it sounded like, and if you guys, Dan or Andrea, if you got something different than what I got from it, tell me. But I understood that we're at least another 3 weeks away from beta getting access to Funnel Hub only. Not funnels, but just access to being able to do a funnel hub. That's my takeaway from it is at least 3 weeks away based on what Catherine relayed to us. And I'm willing to bet it could be even longer based on our track record, but we'll see. And then it sounds like funnels might come, a little while after that. And then nothing about membership areas were mentioned, but Andrea and I have been saying that it's probably going to be like towards the end of the year that we get access to stuff like that. All right. Do you guys have any other like input or takeaways that you got from watching her update?
Just a quick hello to Gary and Ivy. Thanks, guys, so much for joining us. We always love having people join. So hello.
Hey, hello.
Yeah. And it's no, I interpreted the same thing you did, Susan, but here's my big but that doesn't make sense in my logical brain. And that is that I don't understand how they can release hubs without some form of the editor. And I think that the editor is probably the hardest part of the equation because it touches every aspect of ClickFunnels, right? Because like even if they do the whole what they did like Guston did, right, where we have a hub in 2.0 and all of our sales funnels are in 1.0, that to me is just like a nightmare to manage because now we're gonna have to have two ClickFunnels accounts. And like, how do we, anyway, it's just, that seems like it would just be really convoluted to release. So I agree in that I heard that it could be as early as 3 weeks, but my brain is like, I really don't know how they can release it without having the editor ready. And I think the editor is probably the hardest part of the equation.
I have a
Well,
thought
the
on
only thing
this, and then, yeah, Dan, you go first.
I was going to say the only thing I would say to that is there are guys working in the editor. Now they're mostly, I think, ClickFunnels employees, but some people do have the editor and they have to have the editor. Otherwise, they couldn't build the pages we're about to show you.
That's true.
So we do know that the editor exists. We do know that the membership modules exist. But when I go through some stuff, I'll show you a little bit of an evolution of what we've already seen in changes. But also, there's still a lot of work to be done. I mean, this is not ready ready for prime time yet. And you can definitely tell it by looking at the funnels themselves, or the hub in particular that we're going to look at.
That's a good point.
My thought to what you were just saying, Andrea, is that we'll have access to the editor, but when you think about it, the editor is really kind of like basic, like compared to everything else involved, right? It's like the base layer. Obviously, we have to have that in order to build anything within ClickFunnels. But a funnel hub itself is really simple in that you don't have to have order forms working on a funnel hub. You don't have to have integrations necessarily. It's literally just a page that you're putting links on. So no, his funnel hub that he just put out is more complex than funnel hubs I've seen in the past, which it's more like a website, right?
Oh,
and we're going to take a look at it
because that wasn't my takeaway at all. I can't wait to
okay.
with you.
Well, and my understanding of a funnel hub based on ones that I've seen in the past are there's less. And he's got a whole lot of navigation happening. That's just my understanding of it. And I'm sure that we can go into the nuances of like, what is an actual website? What is an actual funnel? But anyway, but for as far as like funnels working, like I think why it's going to take longer is because there's a lot more complexity in a funnel. Like you have to have the ordering working. You have to have the payment gateway integrations working. You have to have the, integrations for like email services if they don't have their own internal one working yet, or they're waiting to have their own internal email automation stuff working before they release funnels. So I can see how we could get one and they can still not be ready to give us the rest of it.
Well, and similar to like on an opt-in page, right? We have reduced elements. And so maybe it's something like that. Just kind of a little bit of a side note. Gary was asking about ClickFunnels being down. And yes, we were actually talking about it just before this call. ClickFunnels has been down since 4 a.m., at least Pacific time. It just came back online as of like 10:15 Pacific. So, but I do still think that they're having intermittent issues around the globe. So they're calling it a Cloudflare issue, but who knows? Because it's like it's dead at the root domain level. So, but I think that we're back online. So, and then yes, Ben said tons of navigation. I think that we've had lots of these sessions, Ben, about the navigation. So it'll be interesting to talk more about that. Actually, maybe we should just dive into it. Because let's dive into it. Dan, do you want to share share your screen?
Yeah. Okay. I'll do that now. I will let you girls know is that apparently what I'm streaming to my Facebook and YouTube is they can only hear me and not you two.
No.
Good.
So we might
need
one more funnel designer the next time that we meet to get this live streaming right.
How I'm streaming this for everybody to know, I'm using Switchboard, and on Switchboard you can use basically it's unlimited number of places you can send it to. Most of them are your Facebook groups and stuff. You can send it through there. And then I also have that connected to Ecamm Live. So you go into Ecamm Live, you say go live, it shoots everything across. Now, apparently the one thing I didn't know is that it couldn't pick up the audio from the Zoom call that we're also on simultaneous to this. So we got all that. So you guys want me to jump into what I was going to talk about here and all of Russell's new stuff. But so first off, let me show you this. Let's go back in the Wayback Machine here a little bit. And here is basically the original funnel.
Are you sharing your screen?
I am not sharing my screen.
Okay.
Find Zoom. You are absolutely right. Let me go back to Zoom.
Make sure we're on the right view.
Don't want to miss any of the gems.
Yeah, that'd be great. We could do the entire thing. I wasn't sharing my screen and nobody could hear the two of you. That's going to be so entertaining.
Wonderful.
I'm going to have to start doing hand puppets or something. So this was the original, or is still the original training area we're supposed to have for CF 2.0.
Yep.
Okay. And I originally come in here and you guys were talking about navigation while I was getting messages from people telling me they couldn't hear you guys. So you were talking about navigation, so I kind of missed some of that. But this was the original navigation element up here at the top. Mm-hmm. And I looked at this and I go, holy no, you cannot tell me that this is the navigation element, because all it is a bunch of hyperlinks.
Right.
So basically they took a text element, put a bunch of spaces in between and turned it all into hyperlinks. So I was just like, oh, they better come up with a better better thing than that. Well, luckily they have, and I'll show you that here in a second. That was the original, whatever they call that thing. Here was another CF 2.0 page. This is the funnels.myclickfunnels.com order form page. So this was for when they were doing that 2CCX thing a couple of weeks ago. So that's a page there that people can go to as well and check it out if they want to see different pages.
Which
that
again, I want to reemphasize on this, Dan, just in case, for those of us who have used CF Pro Tools as the heart of really to make a sales page do the things we want it to do, I'm seeing a lot of CF Pro Tools stuff incorporated in here. Like if you scroll down, just even on like the UI level, having the recommended, all that good stuff. It seems like I'm excited to see that at least.
I think more it's a function of ClickFunnels was built in 2014 or 13 or whatever the heck it was. And they did not have any of the stuff in it that is modern day stuff,
right?
Nor did they have the ability. I know Todd at the thing said, at Funnel Hacking Live last year, he goes, we can only patch the thing together just so long,
right?
Essentially is what he said. Well, what Jamie's stuff was a patch,
sure,
just to try to bring it up to 2022.
Yeah,
and so I would hope that they're putting a lot of what his patches were into the software here now.
Definitely. Yeah.
Just to bring it up to modern specs. So here is the magneticmarketing.com site. This was actually built by Gustin's son over in Finland. I'm not sure if he's an employee of ClickFunnels now or a contractor or what he's doing, but he is building stuff for them. And so in this case here, we're going to start to see we're getting a real nav element up here at the top, including a sub menu. Yeah. And I'll show you that when I get into the next one. And then here, if you haven't seen it, it's a pretty basic site, a lot of 3-column stuff, a little bit of animations, things flying in off the side and whatnot. And so that's the magneticmarketing.com. Now, before this, Russell had a funnel hub, and his funnel hub is right. No, it's not that.
That's
one.
The new one.
This is the old one.
Yep.
So here's the funnel hub. If you want to know how to find old websites, go to a site. It's called archive.org and just go back in time. You can see the timeline up here. You can pick any time going back whenever, and you can find a cached version of the site. So that's exactly what this is here. This was built on WordPress by, what were the guys' names down at Tucson?
It's Mike and AJ. And yeah. And we have I know we've done the Funnel Nexus program, and we, could do a deeper dive on the history of the Funnel Hub. But yeah, Mike and AJ are the ones that were responsible for the creation of the Funnel Hub originally.
Yeah. So this is Russell. Steve Larson had one, other people had them. And again, this was built on WordPress. And so now they've built essentially the same thing into ClickFunnels, and I can turn.
And just for anybody who's listening who hasn't really understood the strategy of a funnel hub, just a level set, the message of websites are dead if you're embracing a funnel strategy is still true. It is still a truth that I think is a drum that anybody who's serious about funnels would still support. The purpose of the funnel hub was to capture people who this is their theory. I don't agree with it, but their theory is that anybody who's out looking for you and doing their own research, called the shadow funnel, that your hub would come up in the SEO search and then you'd be able to find it. But the hub, the whole goal is to get you into a funnel like within one click. So everything is kind of a one-click launch into a funnel. It is not a website where the purpose is I'm sitting here and I'm exploring and I'm engaging and I'm doing a bunch of stuff. It is like just enough to get them into the funnel if they find you through the shadow funnel.
Okay, so people. So I was just going to say. Go ahead, Susan. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was explaining it to my husband last night, who's not in this world at all. So I had to think of a really simple way of putting it. And I could be off on this, but my explanation was on a website, the buying process, like the transaction happens on a website within the pages of a website. And a funnel hub, it is like there's no transactions happening. Everything happening on a funnel hub is directing you to a funnel, because you want the funnel, or you want the transaction to happen in a funnel so that you can guide them through that buying experience.
I think that's true, but I would add in that. So I used to, part of my UX world was to dive deep into how is our website converting into customers, right? But we would spend hours upon hours on copy and words and information on the screen and placement. And I still think that in addition to what you just said, Susan, I think there's also this piece of the intention of a hub is not to have what a website would traditionally have in terms of the amount of content, right? Like it is just enough to get you into a funnel, just enough copy, just enough button placement, just enough, right? Like it's
how do you feel then about like one of the other explanations of a funnel itself is to eliminate as much distraction from the goal you want them to take, right? You're trying to give them like one choice, and that's a funnel. We're speaking about a funnel in this moment. One choice they have either to take that or leave essentially. And a funnel hub is geared to get them into a funnel. But I feel like Russell's funnel hub, his new one that we're looking at right now, has so much on it that it is kind of going into the distraction overwhelm area of like, I don't know if I want to go look at his blog or if I want to go look at his free resources. Like, what's a content hub? Do I want to go there? Do I want to go to free resources? Should I go to his book? And maybe that's just because I'm not an active person. Like, I'm not a person that is actually coming here to like check it out. I already know all this stuff. But I just feel like it's just a lot in my mind of like, I think that's, and he does have a lot to offer. So I understand why it all has to be on there. Like he has so much to show, but.
I think it's noisy, but I think it still follows the structure of a hub in terms of at the top is the lead gen. The second row is your flagship offer where you want people to start. The third is the journey, right? The fourth is the content media hub. So, I mean, it follows that same pattern that we know is how a funnel hub is supposed to be structured. And so I think you're right in that it is noise. I mean, like it feels noisy. So to break it down, what would be interesting is, so like any website, how we used to evaluate them is one of the aspects is the noise to signal ratio, right? So, and we used to say, okay, Amazon, for instance, right? There's a lot of signal, but there's still a lot of stuff happening on the screen. Google, there's a lot of signal and there's not a lot happening on the screen. So what would be interesting if we wanted to do a deep dive on this page is to do an analysis of, if I'm a first-time person to Russell's world, how much of the screen is noise and how much is signal? Because just there's a lot there doesn't necessarily mean that it's void of signal-rich stuff. So it.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dan.
No. Besides it saves my voice here, in case anybody's wondering, I had COVID and I had laryngitis really bad. And so my voice gives out and and if all you hear is like little squeaking noises, well, that's what it was like for 2 weeks. So it's getting better. So to all their points here is the way I would say it is, whether you want to call us a website, a hub, your front page of your blog, whatever you want to call this is for the purpose of sending people to all of your stuff. But most of that stuff is going to be funnels, and the purpose of a funnel, how a funnel is built is it's one-way street. You got one entrance and you got one exit. You don't have a navigation at the top. So if you're building a funnel, do not put a navigation at the top like this. It should have somebody comes in, they see your offer, they put in their name, they buy a product, they do whatever, they move on to the next step. That's it. So don't have any off ramps, don't have any links to anything else.
There is one exception to that, Dan, and that is if you're using what appears to be a navigation to be a hyperlink on the long scroll, right? It puts them into a part of the sales page, but the intention is not to take them away from the sales page. It's just to get them right into the juice of what they want. Is a technique that's an interesting technique that can work in a sales funnel.
Yeah. So what Andrea's saying is, so here, if I clicked on books, what it would do is it would scroll me down to this part of the page where it talks about the books.
Yeah.
And so obviously for me, I don't see that as it's not really, I mean, it's a hyperlink, but it's not, because it doesn't actually take somebody somewhere else. They stay on the page. They just scroll down the page to another part.
Yeah.
So the one thing I wanted to show everybody, so let's say, I mean, I don't know if I said what the site name is marketingsecrets.com. You can all go there. And comments that I got in my Facebook group and stuff is like, wow, that page loads really fast. Well, here's the GT metrics on it. And actually, it loads really slow.
Hmm.
It's actually at a C.
Is
But
that
now,
full load though, or is that upon first view? How does it measure
well,
load?
I think you want this number here definitely under 2. But here's the thing. And Andrea, you can answer this question. Why is it so slow right now?
Probably because of all the animations they have on there.
No, because it's not on a production server.
Oh, yeah. That would
It's
make
still in
sense.
test mode.
Yeah. That would make
And
sense.
that's what the first warning is here is, it changed. It was said something different the other day,
That's
but
interesting. That's super interesting, Dan, because that tells us that it's not ready for production.
yeah. Well, and that's what they said. And that's why they said maybe like 50 people would get it. And then the people who went to Funnel Hacking Live would get it, because I forget, maybe it was at Christmas time, Russell said they don't want to have to put it onto a production server, because once they do, if that's the proper term, I'm not even sure, but they don't want to put it onto a live server out to the public, because then it makes it a lot harder to fix stuff,
Yeah,
because you have to have 2 copies of the software then instead of just one. So you got one that's public facing, and you got one back here where the geeks are working on it, having to fix everything. Right now, they only got the one that the geeks are working on. And so I suspect that's one of the reasons why it's running a lot slower.
That makes sense.
But even at that, it still loads pretty fast. But you're right. One of the things that could be slowing it down are images. Animations shouldn't be so much, because most of the animations are created with CSS, and that wouldn't load until after the page is done loading. So that shouldn't be an issue. And they don't really have that many big images on here. Like if you check out this image, we can come in here and we'll inspect this, and we can look at it. And it says right here, the intrinsic size is 613 pixels wide. Well, the rendered size is 540. So it's only a little bit bigger than what it needs to be on the page.
Yeah.
Which, again, from a page speed standpoint, that's what you want, is you want the actual size of the image you create to be really no bigger than the maximum size it can be on the screen.
Yeah.
So if it's only going to be 200 pixels wide as a logo or something, make it 200 pixels wide.
Well, and I also, and I know this could take us down a rabbit hole, but everybody gets wrapped around the axle on load time, right? And I think they do that because they think that the SEO favors load time, which it does a little bit. But again, if you're using a funnel strategy and you're dependent, like you're not dependent on SEO as much. And I know that the whole premise of the funnel hub is that it's based on the shadow funnel, which is based on SEO, but I still contend that there's other ways that you're going to get people into those areas. Like especially if you have an organic traffic strategy that is not as SEO dependent. And second thing on load time is that it doesn't actually matter about the full page load from a user experience standpoint. It's progressive load, right? So like as long as the beginning starts to load and then it progressively loads, right? That's more than sufficient. So total page time doesn't matter as much.
Well, and if you have stuff running asynchronously below the fold, so you can have stuff that is purposely being delayed down lower on the page as it's being loaded too.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's a lot of issues there.
Right. And that's why I was asking about what the algorithm is for load time on that. Because a lot of times they do full page load.
I think it kind of breaks it down for you on that visualization that is under like that timeline right there.
Yeah. So this
like
number
first
here
content full. Yeah.
Yeah. We got 2.4 seconds here, and you can see right here is a 2.4 second line.
And then its fully loaded time is 3 seconds. You can see that on the timeline.
Yeah.
And if I run this again, it might do better too, because we could have had some of the outage problems when I ran this the first time, but you get the idea. But like I said, I think the reason why it would still be loading. So basically what I'm saying is somebody don't go in here now and go, oh, look at it's a C. They're lying. They have horrible page speed. Well, it's not live yet.
Right. Yeah.
So we don't know what is between us and that server.
Well, and I would ask them, why do you care about page load? Like, what's the root of your care?
Because everybody who works in WordPress thinks that that's the holy grail.
It's like I don't know. It's so funny. WordPress marketing is amazing, right? It's like these truths that are out there in the world. I'm like, these aren't the truths you're looking for.
Because that's the only thing that they can talk about why they're better than ClickFunnels is because their stuff loads faster.
True. Yeah, it's true.
Hey, Dan, I don't know if you're going to touch on this, but I want to throw it out there, and you don't have to talk about it yet. But if you go back over to the marketing secrets page, you see how the S is getting
Susan,
broken down
on
the next slide.
I know he's going to talk about it. I love that you saw that too.
Okay.
Well,
so, all right. Yeah. Let's at some point, if not now, let's talk about the, what's the word? The, screen sizing
responsive
stuff.
design.
Responsive design. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because they're supposed to be making it better in 2.0.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that you saw that.
So
Susan.
far,
I can't
not
wait.
impressed.
Well, trust me, it's on my list because as I said earlier, one of the things is there's some stuff I'm going to show you on this page here that tells me it's not ready for prime time. And these are just bugs that are going to have to get worked out as they go along. But that is definitely one of them, some buttons and other things on here as well. But we were talking about SEO a minute ago, if you want to go back to that real quick, because as you see here now, we got a full-blown menu up here at the top with drop downs and the whole thing. So let's just come in here and let's inspect this and let's look at the navigation. And so as we come down here, you can see right here, submenus. So the submenus are natively built into ClickFunnels now. So essentially, they've taken a WordPress navigation element, the way you can build the menus in there, and they have put that now into ClickFunnels. And from an SEO standpoint, that's good. One day in a different group, we were doing a breakdown of SEO, and basically my premise is that the history of SEO is the history of Google. And one of the things that they always wanted to have, and why WordPress is supposedly so good, is WordPress has a couple of things known as taxonomies. So they got categories, they got tags, and I forget what the third one is as far as the taxonomies. And they also have this, what is known as a silo structure. And I show an example in there for, I think it was a pool supply store. And excuse my voice. Well, what it is so you come in here, and if you look down the bottom left-hand corner, you're going to see the address down here. And so it says marketingsecrets.com/free resources. So free resources essentially is a category at this point. And then you come down to the next one, and then it says your free something, but the what's the thing here is in the way. Free. Your free funnels. Your free funnels, free reports, etc. So this is all part of SEO. So Google come in here with the spiders, they see this menu, they see those things, they now start associating where those pages are going to with those keywords. And so this is much more important than ever putting keywords in, because Google hasn't looked at keywords in probably since I've been involved with SEO, and that's been back 2008, 2009 probably.
This is the intro linking that you were talking about. That's still the highest favored thing.
Yeah, and that's why what I'll do is I'll try to remember to put a link to that SEO thing.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
The reason why WordPress is so good is because of all the internal linking. Yeah. Because Google to this day, I mean, everybody talks about Hummingbird and Panda and all the other upgrades that have been done over the years. But what those were changes to the filters, not necessarily changes to the algorithm for the most part. And so the algorithm essentially is still the same one that those guys wrote back in like 1998 or 7 or whenever they came out with Google. They were working at Stanford at the time, I think, Larry and Sergey. But they it basically says links. How many links are going to a page, and what is the content on those pages that are being linked to? Well, if you got everything inside of your hub, inside of your WordPress blog, essentially what we're building here when it really comes down to it, is all that internal linking inside. Because it's, when they're talking about links, they're not saying it has to be external links. They could be internal links. Internal links are just as good as external links in their original algorithm. So at least I'm pretty sure on that. If somebody wants to correct me, please go ahead. But that's it. And so that's why just even a menu like this makes a big difference. Now, there are a few issues that they have here. I learned SEO from guys called themselves the SEO Brain Trust. It was Leslie Rohde and Dan Thies back in the late, well,
Old timers.
whatever you call before 2010, whatever that decade was.
Did technology even exist before 2010? No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
exactly. Well, technology started when they invented the iPhone in 07. That's what I think. But that's the what was I saying? One of the things that they talk about is first link priority. So somewhere high on your page, like at the very top, you want to make sure you have a link to your homepage with the anchor text. That is the name of your site.
Which is, if we look at here, it's the very first one in the
Well,
name.
actually, they don't have it on here.
Oh, that little home? The little.
No. Let me show you what actually the home. Well, let me see here. Let's do this, inspect this. The home one right here, that's their hyperlink. It's just a slash. And then there is no text. So there is nothing to identify that little home button by, like saying marketing secrets. And this is just an image, and there's no alt text associated with this image. And there's no link associated with that image. So what they could do is they could make this, they could give this alt text, and they could also have it be a hyperlink back to itself.
The icon, you mean, given alt text
Yeah.
to the.
Yeah, this image up here.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, there's a lot of things that can still be done in here. But again, once you know about a little bit of SEO, these are things you can come in yourself and do to really boost it up for yourself as well. And then again, inside of here though, so now we have links. All the stuff down here is a link, but actually it's not. Now I think about it, because if we look at this button again is actually, it's just an image. And because it's an image, you can't put any hypertext on, or you can't put any anchor text on an image. So you're better off doing a button or something else where there can be some anchor text on it.
I wonder why they chose to do an icon instead of or an image instead of I mean, probably just graphically, right? They wanted it to look better.
Well,
that's what I would do. But what about if you use alt text instead, Dan?
Here's the other thing: is how many people are thinking in terms of SEO anymore?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that we waste a lot of our time talking about SEO. And if you're really embracing a funnel strategy, you're just wasting your time. Like, it's not what you should be focused on.
Well, you shouldn't be focused on SEO if you're building a hub.
Purpose
of the hub is to generate SEO and backlinks to your stuff.
I think originally the hub was with the premise of the shadow funnel theory, which did rely on SEO. But I think that there are a lot of holes in that theory that, I mean, we've talked a lot about this, but I think that if you have an organic or a paid traffic and you're leveraging social, what's going to pop up and somebody searching for you is going to be where you show up on social first, before anything that you do that would affect an SEO search ranking. Yeah. And so that's what I'm saying. I just think that your efforts are better spent, at least in the traffic game, on whatever you're doing out on social than trying to spin your wheels, trying to, read the tea leaves of the SEO. And that might be me speaking a little bit from a place of ignorance, but it just doesn't seem like the best use of your time if you're fully embracing a funnel strategy.
Well, I see these as being different. I see a funnel being different than the hub.
True.
Because I more equate this hub to WordPress and the funnel to a funnel. So if you're going to be doing the hub thing, I think part of it is take advantage of SEO to some degree. So now, sure. Are your funnel pages ever going to show up in Google's index? I have no idea.
Yeah,
they may not, but if you're going to put it out there, spend the extra 10 minutes and do it right. Yeah. And, lace a little SEO in here. And that's the thing. Everybody keeps going, oh, there's no SEO in ClickFunnels. Well, now we're giving the opportunity to do some SEO. So maybe, it's time to brush off the old SEO books and go, okay, what were the best practices back then?
It would be really interesting because we have Eric and Ben who are jumping in with some comments about. Eric was saying there's a lot of businesses that need SEO. And then Ben is saying SEO versus funnel all depends on the customer size and need. So I think what's really interesting in this space is that we all have really probably strong opinions, but it seems like it's really grounded in a lot of uh it's not necessarily tied to like if you have this strategy, these are your priorities. It would be really cool to do like a panel or a round robin with all the folks that like, hey, I have an opinion about SEO as it relates to funnel strategy, right? Just so we can hear the different perspectives. Because I think I think a lot of our SEO mentality came from a website paradigm, not from a funnel paradigm, right? And so I don't know, it'd be really cool to, I don't know, maybe we can set that up or something in this group of a SEO discussion panel or forum or something. Just do a deep dive on that. Yeah. And thank you, Eric and Ben. Yeah. Exactly. You're top of the list. Watch out. Necessity. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. All right, cool. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. No matter what your opinion is on SEO, whether you're for, against, or somewhere in the middle, or don't care, or it makes or breaks a business, wherever you're at on that spectrum. I think the nugget is what you just said, Dan, and that is to this date and time, funnels haven't really given those people who want to do anything with SEO a viable alternative that we could actually go out and contend with somebody who has a WordPress mentality, right? And it seems like in what they've done so far with the hub, there's a little bit more SEO viability in terms of the conversion from WordPress over to funnels. Is that a good summary, Dan?
Yeah, because the thing that makes a WordPress blog is what they call the WP loop. And the WP loop is what tells what order your blog post should be in. And essentially what it says, whatever the most recent one was, normally is how you have the settings set. Whatever the most recent one is, you put that on top and you pile them all up in ascending or descending order or whatever below that. That's normally how you can do it. You can do it differently in certain settings in WordPress and whatever, but that's the difference. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they're just web pages.
Yeah.
And other people would argue, well, you could have all these plugins and stuff. Well, that's function of something bigger. It isn't a function of what's on the page.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a platform. It's you needing to have an integrated platform.
Yeah. So a few other things on here, universal sections, which I didn't think there was one on the page, but I just found it at the very bottom by accident here. Nice. So we got a universal section, and as Russell said, you can build it once. Then you just go out and you have it in your toolkit there inside of ClickFunnels, and you go, okay, grab this universal section and put it on every single one of these pages. So now when you go in here and you change your phone number, you change your address, you change it once, you don't have to go into 100 different funnels or 100 different pages.
Hallelujah for that. Yep.
So that's going to be a super sweet little function. And then let's go up here into the head code, because the reason why I didn't think there was anything universal in here is I did not see, because I thought, and maybe
so the navigation isn't a universal element, huh?
You what?
That navigation at the top is not a universal element?
No.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I think they're only going to use it once just on this page. But this down here, you could use this a million times. You guys can see the bottom of my page here. I didn't realize you can actually.
So on the bottom of the page, it's just listing out all of the navigation again, just in a footer format.
Yeah. Home, books, resources, courses,
actually,
all that stuff.
It's not all. Yeah, I guess it ends up being all of it. It's just not organized the same way as the navigation on the top. Just an observation.
Yeah. And Dan, can we circle back to the navigation where you said it is? I mean, if you go and you actually click into the navigation, I guess my question is, why isn't it a universal? Because if you click through it, it does, remain consistent as you visit all the pages.
Well, then they copied it and put it on all of them, because nope, you are right. It is a universal section.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. No. Is this
it says universal.
The navigation and the logo are all together. Yeah.
All right. So this has it on all of them. So that is a universal section. Okay.
Nice.
But now the thing is I thought on the earlier versions of this that, so you had a universal section like this, and then when you went up to the top, and up here is where they're keeping the CSS now, the very top of the page, up in the head code. I thought up here is where they had the CSS for the universal sections. So I'm wondering if they moved that now, and is it in here directly, or where is it? Because that universal section, because it can go across different pages, they got to kind of, I mean, it's its own module, think of it that way.
Yeah.
And this module can just be plugged in to different places. And so it has to come with its own or it has to come with its own CSS.
But that begs the question, Dan, and we should share a little bit of the conversation we're having right before we got on the call about the universal CSS features. But that begs the question in that if I'm making a universal CSS template for my funnel, which again, for anybody listening right now, you can only control CSS at a page level. We know that in 2.0, we're going to be able to control CSS at a funnel level, so we can have consistency across our pages. Super exciting. But then it's like, if I'm making a theme, a CSS universal theme, do I need to then pick from my universal elements, or is it like a separate entity? And if I have a theme on my element and a theme on my CSS, right? Like, I'm wondering how they resolve conflict potentially between those two things. That'll be interesting to see what they do in the editor for that.
Well, with CSS, it's going to take different CSS will take different priorities. So if you have inline CSS, that takes priority over what's the other one? You got inline, you got external, and you got another one that I can't think of it right off the top of my head. But either way, they take priorities, but it's also upon which one loads last. So in this case here, we see these three different CSS files right here. And so whichever one of those loads last is going to take precedent, unless it's an inline style or if the style has an important tag at the end of it.
But to like a normal Joe Schmo user, they're not going to know that, right? And so that's why I go to like.
Well, you're not going to know it, but you don't have to, because you don't have to know it because it's already built into the system.
Right. But how does a customer know? Like if I'm over here developing my universal element, and then I'm over here developing my CSS for my funnel, I'm wondering if somehow in my development of my CSS, my funnel, I have to identify the global elements I'm going to use so I can resolve any potential conflict of design.
Well, so basically, let's make it something simple here. So you got a universal element with a red background.
Yeah.
And the site you're sticking it into has a blue background.
Yeah. Perfect.
How do you tell it what to have? I don't know.
Right.
Will there be something in there that says pick up the style sheet? Because that's one of the things you want to see over here is this very top one is blueprints style. So I know that we're going to have the ability to be able to do themes and things like that. So is that what they mean by a blueprint, where we can set up different themes, different color palettes, that kind of stuff? And then you got a style guide here, which I don't know why this is acting weird.
Just to give a heads up, James is asking about, do we know yet whether default colors, fonts, and similar design variables will be a feature of 2.0? I think what you were meaning in that question, James, is exactly what we're talking about in terms of the CSS theme, which is what Dan's pointing out. And then on a similar theme, as an agency offering funnels for several clients, can we set the defaults at the funnel level? Yes, that's our prediction, is that the whole goal, like the reason why we need CSS is to set it at a funnel level, and not at a page level, because that's problematic, right? And so, yes, James, I think that the theming is at a funnel level. Yeah, that's what we're hoping. That's what Russell said. Yeah. I think we're all in agreement on that prediction, but yeah.
And here's one thing we also don't know yet: have they implemented it?
Right.
Is it on?
What can we tell in the tea leaves of the code, Dan? Tell us.
Well. Is it on this page? See, the biggest problem is if I had access to the editor, then I could tell you exactly, okay, I did this in the editor. It did this over here in the code. Now I know how they work together, but I haven't seen the editor, so I don't know. So do they have themes in there built into there yet? I don't know. We know they have universal elements because we're looking at one. Yeah. So as we go along, we'll just keep finding more things, and eventually we'll get the editor and we can put them all together. But then just to keep going here, so we got custom CSS right here. I don't know why this is acting wonky. which I think this is specific just to this page, just like the old custom CSS was. But then you got a page style as well. So we got at least 3 levels of CSS coming in from somewhere, coming into here. Plus you got the universal
funnel step
CSS.
page. Are the 3 levels?
You what?
Do you think it's funnel step page?
I mean, it could be, but again, but themes. So if you can set up a theme, that theme can be across all your different funnels. So I would suspect if you could set up themes, there's going to be a drop down. You're going to open up your funnel to start building it. So do you want to use one of your themes? Yeah. Okay. Click this and it'll set all your color backgrounds for you. It'll set your font sizes, all that kind of stuff, I would guess.
Right. But to go off the deep end a little bit, right? If we're going to do any kind of A/B testing and we have 2 themes that we're trying to compete against each other, it would be really cool if we could set that not just at a funnel level, but set it at a page level, a funnel level, and a step level so that we could easily do some A/B testing all throughout the funnel.
I mean, I would guess that any theme you set up can be used at every single one of the funnel steps.
Yeah. But could we have 2 themes in place on the same funnel is the question.
I don't see why not. I mean,
that'd be awesome.
Because again, all it is really is a CSS file.
Yeah.
So you're saying, okay, you go in and you create your theme and that creates a CSS file. So you got CSS file number 1, number 2, number 3, and you just go in and you go, give me number 2.
For this page, give me number 2. For this.
Yeah, because you're going to set all the same elements. So you're going to set like the background color elements. You're going to set the button color elements. You're going to maybe button shadows, maybe if that's included in there, you know, your text, your font size, your font family, you know, you set all that stuff and then you just one button click, boom, it all goes in.
Right. Mm-hmm. Cool.
I would guess.
Yeah.
If they don't do it that way, I'll be a little shocked.
I know. It's exciting. Opens up whole new possibilities without all the crazy code that's needed.
Yeah.
It's so much time saved.
So
okay, go back to Susan's question. It's killing me. Or go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry. I don't want to break your
I don't know. What was her question?
The oh my gosh, Andrea, I cannot remember the term ever.
The wrapping. The responsive design. The
responsive design.
Yeah.
Oh, with this.
Yes. Why is the S going down onto a different line?
Well, because the font size is too big.
Does it always do that? I guess it does do that. It does do that in 1.0 right now. I just don't ever see it doing that because I don't make mine.
Well,
like
so
that.
let's take a look at this here. So here we are, and
shouldn't it be like shrinking the font sizes if it was truly responsive?
Yes.
ClickFunnels 1.0 does not have responsive text.
No, it does not. And it does this. It acts like this.
And
so responsive should be, as you are shrinking that page size, we should be seeing the font size get smaller so that it doesn't break up the word into weird disjointed letters. Are you going to give up the goods,
Dan, or are you going to leave it as an open loop and just the suspense? He has something
Should we
brewing.
Continue this next week?
He has something brewing, Susan.
Well, I'll just tell you guys, I've already written the code that makes all the text on your page 100% responsive.
Yay.
And I haven't even seen the editor yet. Oh, and just by the way, girls, because of how they have the sub menus like this now, it's going to be crazy some of the stuff that we can do inside of membership sites.
Heck yes.
Yeah.
So all of our concerns around what we're currently seeing.
The stuff I used to do in WordPress that you can build a membership site with just a navigation element.
Yeah. And all of the stuff that we are a little bit worried about in terms of what we're seeing in the out of the box ClickFunnels membership area, this I think will resolve some of those issues, right? So we can take control of the user experience and not have you click 8 times in order to get to something that you need.
And now let me show you here. So with this font size, so it's set at 100 pixels. So it doesn't have any choice. Once it runs out of room, it's got to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. So it's either going to go off the edge of the screen or it's going to wrap. Yeah. But so what you have to do then is you have to tell it, okay, well, we don't want it to ever be smaller than this. We don't want it ever be bigger than this. But we also want in the middle to be responsive as the page gets bigger and smaller.
Yes.
And so that can all be done. And what the cool part is here, if I can find it, actually, if I just go here. Okay, right over here, bottom left. If you can see this here, yes. Let me get some water before I completely lose my voice.
Don't die. I'm not done
We
with you
don't want
yet.
that.
Well, Andrea,
We
what was
may
it?
have, oh, go
Was it
ahead.
two weeks ago or something? I was talking to you, and
Oh, it's
I
brutal.
I was
You've been on quite a
barely whispering.
journey, going up to your mom's crazy car ride. You've
Yeah.
been on quite the journey. Yeah. But
Well,
you
I'll tell her as
returned
soon
to
as you
tell
brought
the
it up, I'll tell
tale.
everybody real quick. The short version of the story is I had to drive to Wisconsin and I had to basically be there in 36 hours and I had to go 2,000 miles. About 6 hours into my journey, I came down with COVID and I had to keep going. So I was basically driving with a fever. I mean, I might as well have been stoned, but I just kept driving because I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
I had to get there. So either way, that was fun.
Oh, real quick, sorry. Just James and Ben are commenting about the navigation and current memberships. If you guys have not seen, maybe we can post it below here. If you haven't seen, I think last week we actually did a deep dive analysis of what currently is happening in the 2CCX program in terms of the breadcrumbs and the navigation. And we've talked about this issue a lot on the show. But anyway, we'll post that here. But you are in good company in terms of we need a better solution, and there's a lot of room for innovation on that front. So Ben, to your point of, the templates are, I think, even better, like a navigation builder for that supports learning would be awesome. But
Yeah. Yeah. We've been talking about how like I love that you brought it up, Ben. Like the layperson is gonna need templates. So that's exactly what we've been saying. It's like there's because it's basically open-ended to what you can possibly do and how you can structure your course. It's like a complete 180 from 1.0. There's going to be we're going to need to help people so much in this area on just even knowing how to map out how they need to build their course.
hashtag
It's
build
ridiculous.
framework.
Well,
Yes.
that was a comment I made to Catherine Jones the other day. I said my biggest concern is the learning curve.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be so much to learn in here.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, just the stuff we were talking about today, we haven't touched on membership sites really. We haven't touched on e-commerce. We haven't touched on products and email integration and follow-up funnels and all that stuff. So it's
exactly. And that's why I think, we've seen it from time to time, and I'm still pretty junior in the funnel world. Like I've only been here for 3 years, right? So I can still consider myself, I know in entrepreneurship world, that's like an eternity, but from I think an expertise level, I think that's still babe, we babe world. I know Ben has spent countless hours talking about the anatomy of funnels, right? And I think that as we get into 2.0 and we get this amazing flexibility and complexity, I think it's really going to be dependent upon those of us who understand anatomy of funnels to provide those frameworks so that people can work within them instead of just having like a wide open blanket slate. So I think shout out to anybody who can do the anatomy of different, funnels and hubs and things like that to help guide people is going to be needed.
Yeah, that's why we keep Ben around.
I know.
So,
He's a good guy, that guy.
I assume you're talking about Ben Moot there, aren't you?
I am. I'm
yes.
talking about Ben Moot. Yeah.
All right.
He was the first guy that I ever came into who actually deep dove into the anatomy, right? Like the most I ever heard was like, emotion, logic, FOMO, or, I do think that Catherine's model of like the design framework, right? Like it gives us something, but Ben took it to the nth degree, which is wonderful.
Okay, so one thing I was going to show you guys here, talking about the font size and making it responsive and whatnot, is that you see over here on the left, these are all things that clearly you can set when you're setting up your theme or wherever it's going to be set inside of ClickFunnels. But you got your content, you got your sub headlines, and you got your subhead or your headline elements, and you got small, medium, large, and extra large. So before you ever get started, you can set up what you want those font sizes to be. And then I would guess again, so you're coming in here to your element, you say font sizes, you click a drop down or something, maybe boom, you grab it. I don't know how exactly it's going to look, but you set up 12 different font sizes ahead of time so that again you got congruity between your different funnels, your funnel steps, your whatever, and you set it once, click on the theme, load it into your site. All of a sudden now all of your sub headline elements, your small subheadline elements, all have exactly the same size.
That's so cool. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for that hack, Dan.
Yeah. So no, this isn't a hack. This is built into ClickFunnels.
No, but I mean, if you provide the ability for us to be able to systematically do that and make it responsive, And
Right. And then that's the next level on top of it is
sorry,
to
I didn't
then make it right, is then to make it responsive in that so you don't end up with something like this where you have 100 pixels on a page that's clearly too small for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, at this point here, this thing, might get sized down to 90 pixels wide. And as you continue to slide down, it'll just keep going. And then in that case, once you get to mobile, it just keeps, you don't have to set up a different mobile page with different font sizes.
Right.
Because it's just going to do it automatically.
Well, because two things. One, I don't know about you guys, but a lot of times when I pick up new clients and they've been working with another agency that maybe isn't as well versed in the native functionality of ClickFunnels, but they're, put in a crap ton of code for mobile, the mobile experience. And I'm just like, oh, there's so much like, taking out and like, why? Anyway, but I will say that there isn't yet a good solution for the tablet experience, right? Because it falls into this no man's land. And I think it takes on the default of the desktop. So I think this also solves both of those problems in terms of I don't necessarily have to create all this custom code in order for the mobile experience. And I don't have to just disregard tablet users because the percentage isn't good enough and I'm not going to waste time doing it. You know what I mean?
Well, one of the things in ClickFunnels 1.0, the breakpoint is 770 pixels.
Mm-hmm.
So when you can set either desktop, you can set mobile. So anything below 770 will get the mobile design. Anything above it will get the other. Mm-hmm. So again, you're right. If you got like a 900 pixel wide tablet or something like that, you're kind of in no man's land there because it doesn't know where to be. So here we're at
Pro, folks. Oh, it's brutal.
Here we're 768 wide, but if we rotate this to 1024, it's actually worse.
Yeah. This is iPad Pro. I don't know about you guys, but most of my clients, I'm like, we're just gonna bless and release our iPad Pro users because it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I even have trouble like because my desktop is a 22. I have two 22-inch monitors, which is not the same as your standard laptop size as ratio. So I find like I will go and design like this beautiful, awesome looking page on my desktop, and then I'll go pull it up on my laptop, like checking something really quick. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what it's looking like. Like, if I don't do my due diligence and checking all of that ahead of time, it's like, oh yeah, like it totally does not. It's just not that big of a difference in screen size, and yet it can totally screw up so many things. Yeah, especially when you're talking about like if you ever do a typical thing that I do in my designs is shadows on columns to create boxes, or even just like backgrounds in those columns to create boxes. And like just the size difference between my desktop and the laptop changes whether the boxes are all level on the bottom or all like totally unlevel. I need to get Dan's fix for that.
You got to get Dan's fix for that. I struggle with that exact same thing.
It's so annoying. Yeah. Oh it's like, gosh. For somebody it's going to look off and for somebody it's going to look right. And I don't know who that's going to be.
That's what I was resolved to too for the longest time. And then it was total mistake. I was showing Dan.
Yeah, right here. Look, you can see it on their box right here. One of them is lower than the other.
Yeah. So, and it was just by accident. I was showing Dan a funnel for an unrelated thing. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, what do you mean? This is just how it has to be. He's like, no, stupid. It doesn't have to
Dan,
be that
you
way.
Haven't shared that with me.
Dan has a fix. Dan has a fix.
All right, I'll go find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just hang on here a second.
I love how humble you're being now, Dan.
How much more do you have planned to talk about this page, Dan?
I could talk all day. What do you want?
I was just thinking, like, should we tease something and then continue this next week?
I think so. Because I think we could deep dive on all of these elements a little bit deeper, actually.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know what I just did to the page, but I killed
it. Perfect time to wrap it up.
Well, that's why, that's always a bad idea. It's just like try to be writing code live in front of somebody that you've never done. I mean, I've done this before. That was one of the things that I had a problem with on this page is that these columns don't line up. And seriously, it's one CSS property will line them up for you.
Changed our life. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's,
if you guys need that code, go talk to Dan.
It's known as Flexbox. No, it's just known as Flexbox is what it is. And
Awesome.
they do use a lot of flex in here already existing. So here you see this element is already flexed because it's got the little flex thing here. And if you click on it, it will actually show you what's being flexed. Because it'll put a square and stuff around it.
What is it? Is it the image or is it the column?
Well, this is a column at this
column
point is being
container.
flexed. And then I thought if I did this, see, that's messing it up. I fixed it the other day and I don't remember exactly where I had to put in the flex to fix it.
Yeah.
But that's what happens a lot of times is you have to flex like the column and then you have to flex the element inside the column. And then when you do that, it makes them all exactly the same height.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, I use flex all the time for stuff. Like in a case like this,
Okay.
I would probably just create these 4 columns and then flex them all. Make it a 4-column row even, then just flex them. I mean, could be any way you want to do this.
Yeah. And just to give you a plug, Dan, I know, when 2.0 got announced, it was, I mean, you are somebody who we go to do the technical deep dives and push the experience boundaries, right? And I know that most of your business was based on 1.0. And so when 2.0, it's like, you're kind of in this whole pattern, but I know that you were working on your code school, which I know I'm super excited about to take because it's going to be specific for ClickFunnels and what we want to do there. So just to make a plug, I know you still have that on the horizon and potentially it's going to be like both a 1.0, 2.0 code school. Do you want to talk a little bit about that so people could learn stuff like this in there?
Well, yeah, and the thing is if they keep delaying ClickFunnels, I may have to start working on it because I'm running out of things to do.
Yeah.
So
don't tell me that because I got
we'll give you stuff to do.
I built some membership sites for you, but you're like sleeping or something. I don't know. And now this thing went completely off the screen as I made it even smaller. So again, I mean, it shouldn't be doing this, but it could be because I've been messing around with the code so much, I might have screwed something up in here too. But yeah, so basically what I'm calling it the funnel code, and that's what it's going to be about, is basically how to write simple bits of code. But I was trying to wait until 2.0 came out because I wanted to see what functionality, what were they going to build into ClickFunnels 2.0, and then work around that, but also be able to use 2.0 for examples in the code. But so I don't know. That's still probably 6 months away before that's going to come out because I got a bunch of other stuff to do in between. But one thing I will tell you, don't do one thing that they did on this page. Every single image has a hover effect on it, including the little buttons. I mean, everything has a hover effect on it. I don't know about you guys, but that drives me nuts.
Well, it's a basic premise of user experience that we've talked about a lot, and that is visual hierarchy, right? So if everything is on this page is important, then it's really not sending a good signal to the customer to say what is the most important thing, right? It's also manipulating perception. So anytime that, based on like just the way our visual system works, right? Whenever anything moves in our environment, we are hardwired to pay attention to it. And so when we see things like this, where there's a hover and there's a pop and there's a jiggly and a blah, 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 right? It's manipulating our perception system, but that can be fatigued. And so using it to the extent that they are using on this page, you're right. And that the fatigue factor could definitely set in, and it's like overwhelm, right? Like it's stimulus overwhelm. So I would definitely agree that they need to use it more sparingly, and they need to use it on the things that they want the customer to attend to the most.
Well, and to me, the hover animation thing happening to me, that indicates that's something to click on.
Yes.
So I would expect it on buttons. I would not expect it on every graphic on here.
Great point.
Flying, moving in graphics and like sliding in, that kind of stuff, like that obviously is capturing my eye and my attention. So I'd use those on the graphics. But the hover thing, like that, I feel like that should be reserved for things that they want me to click on.
Yeah.
And I don't know if maybe those graphics are clickable. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, no, that's why. Well, actually,
it didn't now that you say look like it.
Well, right here in the code, you can see it says here data image length equals that. So if you do click clickable on this, so this is a hyperlink.
Okay,
that's good.
So that's good. But the graphic of like the two comma club winners at the bottom, is that one clickable? Like, because that one's also
Right.
hovering, and it's like, oh,
What's
now
the
they're
point
popping
of
out at
that?
me.
Yeah, why is that jumping out at you? Yeah.
Yeah, that one does not have a link on
That one
it.
doesn't. So
Right.
they just
Yeah.
applied it to all of the images. And I kind of
Well,
wonder
yeah.
if maybe
Well,
that's part of a theme. Like, make
I
all of
was
my
looking.
images hover.
I was looking at the CSS last night, and that's exactly what it is. And in the declaration in the CRS, it says image, and then it had some other elements, and it says on hover, make it 5% bigger, do a transform scale, make it 5% bigger. And I was just like, really? Every single one?
Yeah. Um, so one other thing on that too is, so there is a prediction that in 2022, more websites are going to have these type of like floaty elements and like movie elements and Giphy element, right? Like more movement on the page is going to be a thing, right? And while that violates all of my like basic principles of user experience, I can't deny that it's out there in the ether as a prediction, right? And it's kind of similar to flat design, if anybody follows the UX world. So flat design, so way back when, we used to say like, hey, everything needs to like look like you can click on it, like have a shadow, have a bevel, have a clear like distinction around it, right? And then when the new iPhone, I think it was 8, maybe 9 came out, it came out with flat design. If you guys will remember, right? Like you go to the phone and you don't know that you can actually click inside of the button at the top, right? Or like things no longer had a shadow and a bevel. Like we didn't know that we could actually click on the thing. And for a while, the UX community was up in arms because it's like you are violating so many principles of good UX, but now we've learned it. You know what I mean? And flat design is like the thing. And so again, while this animate CSS is a prediction for 2022, and it really violates some basic UX principles, I can't deny that I'm wondering if it's like the flat design, that's coming and we're all just going to get used to it in our overstimulated world. And it then becomes a thing that's, I don't know.
Well, and then the next question becomes is how does it work on mobile?
Yes, exactly.
Some of these will work fine on mobile. Other stuff doesn't. Like where they have Dan Kennedy flying in from the left-hand side here.
Right.
That ain't that's not going to work on mobile because this over here is going to take up the entire screen.
True. Yeah.
So where's poor old Dan going to be there?
Right.
Well, and the things that
like
that you have to, the things that you require your mouse to be hovering over for them to be animating, like how does that work on mobile? You don't see it unless I don't even think that would work. Like if you put your finger on it, it's either going to click or you're going to be doing a long click, which just brings up a menu.
I was going to say, I got this cool special finger that it knows when I'm hovering over my phone. See?
Oh, yeah?
I don't think that technology
you have a hover finger?
Anywhere.
Is that like
I have a hover
hovercraft?
finger, yes. But nobody else has that. So your phone doesn't know when you're hovering over it. So again, hover effects don't work on mobile either.
James said Dan letting him feels like 1990s PowerPoint. It's true. Remember when PowerPoint gave us animation? We all went hog wild, right? Like, right? It was like, okay, stop.
It's like ClickFunnels gave us more animation stuff, and now we're all gonna have like that's why it's gonna be a trend because ClickFunnels is giving it to people, and so we're gonna be like using all the animations.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of animation in WordPress. If you look at what's in there now, when I was working with drop funnels for a little bit, there's just a ton of animation you could do in there. Yeah. But problem is most people completely overdo it.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit, like on page load, like the very first one here, when the page loaded, let me see here if I can, no, that's not it. Let me get us out of the way. Well, let me just reload the page. But so watch what it does. Boom. I mean, right there as the page loads. I mean, that's kind of cool. Have the page fly into your device on but once you get there, then leave it alone.
Right. Yeah. It kind of just one final note, and that is it reminds me of so cyberpunk, these futuristic universes where it's just overstimulation, right? Like everything flashing, everything's making noise, everything's in your face, everything's right. It's like this noisy world. And if we want to actually perpetuate it in our experiences that we build, or I don't know, it'll be interesting to see.
Or be the ones going against the grain and stand out by not conforming to those ridiculous things.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just gonna say.
So basically,
Yeah.
You
go
don't
ahead.
want to be assimilated by the Borg, is what you're really saying.
Well, I mean, are we talking like Picard Borg, or are we talking, like, I mean, it kind of depends on where we are in the Borg continuum. Like,
The cutest of Borg, wasn't that his name?
exactly.
Yeah,
Like
that's
first
that's
origins of the
dating us if
Borg,
we
heck
remember that.
not. But
I
what's
mean,
that?
how long ago was that show out? 20 plus years ago.
I don't know, but what they've done with it in Picard is pretty dang interesting. It takes a whole new version of the collective. So, but we're just gonna
Are
go
you
down
talking the
a
new
total.
version?
You guys are
Picard.
losing people here with this
All right,
conversation.
sorry.
Are
Just
you
kidding.
kidding me? These are all geeks that are watching this. Of
I
course they
know,
watch
I
Star
know.
I
Trek.
bet you they know.
I was just gonna say, like, let's wrap. We've been
Yeah.
live for an hour, longer
Yeah.
than an hour. So
We'll get there.
James mentioned in the comments, he's like, go all day, like he's in for it. But I think, Dan, if you could just kind of like just tease a little bit, like rattle off some things, like, oh, I also wanted to talk about this, and this, but we'll get to it maybe next week if that works out.
I mean, we honestly we hit pretty much my entire list of things on here, but who knows what'll be released next week? Who knows what's going to happen? So if something exciting happens and
you know what? We did not touch on the Content Hub pages, so maybe we can talk about that next week.
I think we could
because that's blogging stuff.
Yeah, I think we can continue to go down some of these rabbit holes and do a deeper dive. So, and I love the idea of talking about blog, because going back to the SEO, everybody knows my stance on this. I choose Medium as your blog of choice if you're going to choose a blog over anything else, but we can talk more about that.
No, internet. Well. What happened to your internet?
No,
yeah, so I think let's do that.
That's
let's
a function of me.
Okay.
I've been having that happen a lot lately, where I'll have a page and then I go like to reload the page or something, and I'll get that warning. So it's a function of my computer or my internet or something.
That's weird. Okay,
and
so guys,
that did comment on SEO, we'll plan something else on that too, on that front. But I agree, Susan,
for sure.
I'll drop the link to that talk that we did that day.
That'd be great, Dan.
It'll give people at least a starting point.
Yeah. And my only ask is that all of us have a strong opinion and we just learn from each other in the SEO conversation, because there's no right, no wrong. Just
so what you're saying is you kids don't fight with each other, okay?
Or healthy conflict. Let's have some healthy conflict. I'm all for that.
Healthy conflict. Everyone has different strategies that they're pursuing that are priority over other ones, so it's all good.
I hear there's a comedian is putting out a course on how to have conflict resolution.
More to come. Open loop.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. We had quite a few of you watching us live today. It's so much more fun when you guys are watching live and we have comments and we can interact with you. So set it on your calendars. We'll be going live next Friday, same time. It's 10:30 Pacific. Dan, if you can join us again next Friday, we'd love to have you back to keep diving into some of these other pages that are part of the Funnel Hub.
I got nothing better to do.
Yes, you do.
All right.
But we still want you
there. Awesome. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Y'all take care.
Bye.